if you're out there and you're listening, I encourage you that if you feel like you don't need healing because life's been peachy keen, unicorns, rainbows, and sunflowers, there might be some stuff in there that hasn't shown up for you yet, and you deserve healing too, and that's okay.
You're listening to the Real Business Connections Network. Real Business Connections Network. Powered by Balbert Marketing, LLC. Subscribe now and check us out at realbusinessconnections.com. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Rochester Business Connections, powered by Balbert Marketing, LLC, where I get the chance to chat with Rochester, New York's very best business owners, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. I am your host, Ben Albert. Don't forget to subscribe, and remember, we don't do advertisements. My fee for this show is simple. If you gain value from the episode, personally share with a friend and explain your favorite part. Let's get started. Welcome everyone to Rochester Business Connections on the Real Business Connections Network. I'm here today with Cody Wasial. Cody, what's up? How are you today?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for this conversation. I think a lot of things are going to come up for me.
Oh boy, well, we can't wait to see.
And the audience will hear and see why in a moment, because you are an intuitive life coach, certified dream builder, facilitator of trance and dance, movement medicine, keynote speaker, unintentional comedian, founder of Healing with Hydration, Loneliness of Love, Follow Your Heart. Oh my gosh, it's just like, I'm looking at my notes and my brain's like, I don't even know where we're going to go with this conversation. So let's start by the link, because it seems like you're doing a lot of things, but is there a link in between all these different skills and activities?
There is. There's a beautiful link, and it's called self-awareness and self-love. And so what all of these modalities have done for me has brought me into a deeper sense of self-love, a deeper confidence. It allows me to walk with more peace and grace. And then so what I do is I share these with people via, different events, whether it be retreats or speaking events or movement medicine to tap into the body. And it just really helps people bring themselves back into that intuitive awareness, understanding where things came from within. It's all this programming and stuff that we learned, and then we get to choose what parts of us we want to keep and which parts of us we want to allow to go on the wayside and cultivate new habits and things that actually serve us in living life with a little more balance.
A little more balance. And we get to make that choice. When did you make a choice to be an entrepreneur, a heart-centered entrepreneur? Like, you can give me the life story. I'm very interested, but give me as little or as long as we need. Like, when did you get started with this passion? And when did you make that decision that this is something I'm going to do for a living?
Yeah, well, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version, but I will give you a little bit of a backstory. So I'm an only child, and I grew up very much independent, kind of doing my own thing. My parents worked really hard. And so I had chores, and I was kind of left on my own quite a bit with my animals and things. And so I always had this very responsible nature. So I initially went into animal care for about 15 years, actually. I had a business. It was called Cody's Cozy Pals, and I rocked it. It was my passion. It was my purpose. I knew what people wanted. I understood what they needed with their animals. And I built this from the ground up to a $500,000 a year business. Of course, that was mostly taken up by overhead, but hey. But the beautiful thing was I learned so much from the animals and the people, having staff. I had never been a business person before like that. But I always, in all the jobs, you get out of high school, you have a job, and then you have another job, and then in college you have a job. And all of those jobs, I was like, I could do this better. Be done differently. I always had this feeling like things could be done differently. And then the response when people say, well, if you think you can do it better, then go do it. And I was like, okay, yeah, I think I will. So I did. And over the years of doing my animal business, I started to notice that I was feeling a little stuck. I'd see staff leave and I'd be like, man, they get to leave and I'm stuck here. It was a lot of responsibility, a lot of stress. And my health started to shift. My weight started to shift. I also had things going on in my own personal life. I had a fiance, we were going to get married, then we weren't, then the wedding was off. And so all of these things were happening. And it led me to feel very like I wasn't in control of my life. And the funny thing is we are and we aren't. There's controllables and there's non-controllables. And I remember one day saying to one of my clients, like, I can't do this forever. And they're like, oh, you're just having a day. And then I remember 6 months later, still feeling the same way. And I started to realize that my passion and my purpose was beginning to shift. It was starting to shift. And I was into the spiritual stuff because of the animals. I was looking at holistic health and wellness first because of the animals. And then in doing that, and then also my fiance at the time, he had like anxiety, depression, those kinds of things. So I was also I was like, listen, babe, if you haven't been in the jungle with a shaman, like we haven't tried everything, and I was one of those, I'm going to go try everything, guinea pig myself out on all these healing wellness modalities, and then come home with a plethora of them and be like, okay, which ones do you want to try? And the answer was not many of them. And so what ended up happening was I was continuing to heal when I didn't even know that I needed healing. I had a pretty good childhood. There wasn't really anything massively large or traumatic that would have keyed me into seeking out health and personal growth. So
talk a little bit about that. You said you didn't know you needed healing.
Yeah, I didn't because I feel like when you're out there and you look at like a speaker, right, or someone who's bringing information to you or something that's so inspiring, it's like, this person has overcome these massive odds, like, a sports injury or born, unable to walk or lost a leg during something. And these stories are beautiful and they always make me cry. And I'm always so amazed and so proud of these people for coming into their own, but I never connected to them because I'm not that. I had a beautiful life with loving parents. I have all of my appendages. I have never been injured. I have never had any of these, large experiences, overcoming even mental abuse or sexual abuse or any of those kinds of things. Like I've not experienced that. I've been very blessed and very protected. I've always had compassion and understood how someone could feel if they have it, but I've never been able to fully connect with that. So when hearing those inspiring stories, I was just like, wow, that's amazing. And then that's kind of all that did. So because those people had such big things, I always felt there was no space for me to need healing. Who am I? Look at these people having all of these things happen to them and they're overcoming it. And nothing happened to me, so I must be all right. And the thing is it doesn't matter if nothing has happened to you, something still has. And it's on whatever level that is for you. We are all children of someone and something. We have all, have had experiences through our life with relationships. We've all been 1 to 7 years old where the theta waves in our brain are being programmed by our environment, our learned behavior. And those things, though maybe they don't seem so, catastrophic, are influencing our everyday choices and action. I had a deep, deep feeling that I needed to suffer for love. What? And I didn't even realize that was a thing. Why was I attracting these people and having these relationships where I was suffering for love, feeling like I had to stay in it and you work through it and you just, all these things. And there's a level of working through it. And then there's a level of self-sabotage and abandoning all that you truly are to try to bend into and chameleon into something you aren't. And then it creates a deep suffering. And I was doing that. And I learned that behavior because it was what I saw in my environment and things and what I learned. And so, as I went through these healing modalities, I was brought to the space of like, oh, wow, I'm healing. and I needed to heal. And there it was, and that's, so yeah, I mean, if you're out there and you're listening, I encourage you that if you feel like you don't need healing because life's been peachy keen, unicorns, rainbows, and sunflowers, there might be some stuff in there that hasn't shown up for you yet, and you deserve healing too, and that's okay.
And I know so many people are going to relate to this, Cody, and I have the goosebumps because I'm one of those people. I mean, my dad was an alcoholic. My mom has a little bit of a mental disorder, but they were a loving two-parent family, and I never went to therapy, and nothing significant ever happened. That this is the time where I didn't even realize I had trauma until way longer into my life, when it started coming out in my actions and the way I spoke about myself and the way I spoke about others. And it's like, oh my gosh, I've been living with this. And it's sometimes hard to even pinpoint where those traumas are coming from. And a lot of people at home, oh my gosh, it's like, once you start realizing this, that's the opportunity, right? So what was your next move, your next step? So you were treating yourself as a guinea pig. And anything else that we missed out in that story leading you to today?
Well, the parts that when I was guinea pigging myself,
yeah,
and coming home, there was something that was happening within, and I would start to notice things differently. And so it brought a different awareness to my environment, how I was operating. And it was really starting to give me the real version of me unapologetically stepping into my beingness. And I started to create boundaries with things. And I think one of the main things was when this first started happening for me, I got really resentful. I got really mad. I was like, why would my parents do this to me? Why would this person do this to me? Why, right? And so it was that. And then that was even a space to shift more into peace, because nobody did anything to me. It was what I learned, and I just didn't know enough to stop the pattern and the cycle. So this pattern and cycle had to continue until it continued enough that I didn't want it to be there anymore. And then I got to take the action to shift that. Then you actually get to love your parents again, because hot damn, like my parents did the best that they could with what they had then, and they did better than their parents. And though it still created some of these things that I was operating from that were very, harmful to my personal existence, it actually made me stronger. It showed me how to navigate things in a different way, and then choose. And in choosing, there is strength and empowerment. So then you get to come out of that space and you just get to be like, wow, thank you so much. Because even where they did something quote unquote wrong, it wasn't wrong because it brought me to where I am. So there, in fact, it makes it kind of right. And so then this starts this new space of deep gratitude. And I think gratitude is overlooked in a way because so many people say, oh, well, just be grateful, do your affirmations, say this and do that. And there's a difference between saying it and feeling it and becoming it. Saying I'm grateful for something is different than being grateful. So, when people are like, I did my affirmations today and I did this, and I've been doing it for so long and it's not working. Well, because we have to take it out of the knowing and the talking into the being, and integrate the gratitude into every little moment and nano moment of life. It's not just grateful for the big things. I'm grateful for the sofa that I'm sitting on, and I can feel the leather on my legs that I just shaved, and I'm grateful for how smooth that feels, and I'm grateful for the sun that's outside, and I'm grateful for the bird that occasionally chirps on your end of this podcast because it makes me feel like I'm in nature. And you're taking in all of those things at once, and you're actually bringing it into your awareness and your consciousness. That is your environment, and you're creating how you perceive and walk through it. And that is a choice. I could also sit here on the flip side of that and be like, that bird won't stop. My legs feel weird on the sofa. It's sticking funny. The sun's kind of coming in my eyes. The choice. But when you start to practice it long enough in the beingness of it, it's like brushing your teeth. You think about brushing your teeth, or you just get up in the morning and brush them? Why do you just get up in the morning and brush them? Who hammered that into your brain over and over and over and over and over again in a repetitious cycle? So what does repetition do? Repetition creates new mappings of the brain. You don't like something, repeat something new until it becomes like brushing your teeth. My responses now that I've had these tool belts in my tools in my tool belt for these last 2.5 years, it took that long. I mean, I've been doing this for like 10 years, but it took the last 2.5 for it to take and be like brushing my teeth. My mental response now to things is just naturally gratitude. What's the gift in this? Oh, there's some poop flying right now. Okay, great. What's the gift in it? Like, I'm still experiencing the pain. I'm still experiencing the sadness or the joy. It's not that you stop experiencing those things. The difference is that you don't go down a rabbit hole with it and it ruin your whole day, week, month, or year. It's a moment in time that something is happening, and then later you get to see what the gift was with it. I got stung by a bee the other day. Okay, yeah, in the moment, it hurt.
Yeah.
Like, it absolutely hurt. I'm allergic to bees. My legs swelled. It was really gross. Was I still experiencing that pain? Absolutely. But I was like, geez, I wonder, bees bring healing. The swelling boosts your immune system. Like, what did nature feel I needed? Or maybe nature's my new divine lover. He says it's nature's acupuncture. I was like, yeah, great. So there's a way to do all this and feel all of it and experience it while not being taken down a space that's unhealthy for you. And that's what I help people get to, and that's the golden thread that brings us back to that thread.
So you're slowly reprogramming to make a decision, a choice to actually see and feel life circumstances differently. And that fills up your cup. Now, what's coming up for me, and I do want people to take out their pencil, take notes, because what's coming up with, I was speaking with Rudy Reiskins. I'll put it in the show notes. He's a brilliant speaker. And we were about 45 minutes in. He's going to be on the show. This was just a personal consultation call. No one's ever going to see it but me and him. He basically mapped out my goals and, says Oprah calls you on the phone. You've reached all your goals and she wants you to come on. How do you feel? What's coming up for you? And the number one first thing that I felt was fear. Like, I was blinded by fear. Like, the thought of Oprah calling me right now and being like, you reached all these goals, actually made me afraid, because I feel like I'm not there yet. I feel like I maybe don't deserve it yet, and I haven't put in the work. And what he made me realize, as someone who has practiced affirmations, I'm misaligned with the actual emotion behind the affirmation. Where I'll say an affirmation like the typical, today's going to be an incredible day, but what is it physically going to feel inside of me when it's an incredible day? So this is the taking notes portion that I'm curious, like, what should an affirmation exercise like that actually look like, so you're doing it the proper way?
This is one of my favorite things. Because you do bring it into the feeling of it. So your dream has a vibration and it has a frequency. And if that already came to you, it's already yours. All you have to do is match it. And how we match it is by, bringing ourselves into the feeling of it. How do we do that? Well, we can do that a couple ways. And the one way that my mentor taught me to do it was saying, it's 3 years from now. And I am so happy and grateful now that. And then not listing the things as bullet points, but literally describing it. And, mine sounded something like this a few years ago. I'm so happy and grateful now that I have found my divine lover and we are making retreats together and traveling the world. And we just left Bali and we've just gotten to go. We're heading over to Indonesia now, and we're going to hang out with some orangutans and some elephants. And I'm just so blessed that he has shown up. He's talented, he's musical, he's creative. And we're going to go home to our house on a lake, you know, with its own private whatever. And then I would begin to describe the lake, what the lake was like, what it was like to sit on the porch and so on. So it starts out like that. And then you get to detail of it. You know, what does the earth feel like under your feet? The coolness of the river that is my home, that I wake up with my cup of tea and I stand out on the patio and I'm able to walk out to the river and I'm able to finish my cup of tea. And then I'm doing my cold water therapy in the morning with the fog rolling through. And that starts to create an image. And the image starts to create a feeling. And you feel the earth and I feel the water. And it's real. It's real because your mind only knows what to tell it. And then your vibration is at the matching level of what it is that you are feeling and what it is you have dreamt. And then you look at that and you read that every day and you're in that feeling and you say, what can I do now? What can I do with what I have now to move me in the direction of that? And usually there's opportunities and people to talk to, steps you can take, and it's the action then at that point. You're feeling it, you know it, it's already yours. What action step can you take?
I feel like if you feel it, you'll have that intuition as to what the correct action's going to be too, right?
Yeah, well, what happens is your intuition starts to work for you. Mm. So you then speak it into reality, right? So if we're keeping it all in our mind and speak it into existence, claim it. Tell somebody, you know, when you're dreaming something first, you want to baby it, you want to protect it, you want to make sure it's safe. But then as you become very confident in it, you choose specific people to share your deepest dreams with that you know will also protect your dream and say, yes, you're doing amazing. I know you can do this. And then you share that with them because you're speaking it into existence. Now it's spoken into existence. And now those steps, the universe and your intuitive nature starts to see things that actually support that. Other things start to be brought in. You know, I can equate it to, you know, the lover part of my relationship, right? So that had been, I just turned 40. I've been waiting a long ass time for this to happen. And, you know, I was dating sites, and I was just like, this is not how I meet my person. Like, I just knew it wasn't, but it was a step that I could take. Mm-hmm. But in each one of those dates, I learned something new about myself. And those dates got better and better as far as the experience. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is getting nicer and nicer, a little closer. Like I could feel it creeping in. And then I was like, all right, I'm just going to get off of the online dating thing because I know he's not there. And I went back to focusing on me. I'm like, he'll come. I'm just going to go back to doing me. Well, after years of saying these affirmations of what type of person I wanted, how I wanted it to be, all of that stuff, magically one day on Instagram, who I'd been friends with this person for a little while, a couple chit chats here and there, nothing crazy. This person was like, I'm leaving Instagram, taking a social media hiatus. And something inside of me said, oh no, I'll never talk to him again. Mm. That was an intuitive nudge. Now, if my logical brain had taken over, it would have said, Cody, you have no reason to give a stranger on Instagram your cell phone number who you've only spoken to twice. But my intuitive nature said, oh no, we might never get a chance to talk to this person again. And that was problematic for me. And because I've been practicing following that intuitive nature, was it scary for a moment? Sure. But you lean in. You start to make friends with the part that's scary. Because when you look at fear as something that's outside of you and it's scary, you're creating division within self. When you create the division within yourself, you're actually not aligned in creating the feeling that draws in your dreams. So when we can befriend our fear and say, ooh, hi, fear. Ooh, why am I a little scared to give this guy my phone number? All right, maybe because it's real. Thank you for this awareness of self, of where I can lean in a little bit more and trust my intuition, trust myself, know that I'm worthy of what could maybe be on the other side, worthy of this love, worthy of this adventure. And basically fear, anxiety, stress, whatever, worry, doubt, start to become the red flag that turns into the just, hi, it's just an awareness flag, you know? And so I gave him my number. And he texted me, and we've been talking ever since, and it's been completely nonstop. And he's actually like, when you know, you know. And I just know. I knew as soon as things shifted with us. And now we're going on this magical adventure, lines of love across the country. We're creating a crystal grid. And it's this beautiful, divine, like heavenly sent connection. And I've never experienced that before in my life like this. And there is a knowingness and a trust in it. And had I not gotten over that little tiny scary moment of, well, you just had a whole bunch of poopy dates, and well, this is just a friend, just give him your number. Like, well, yeah, but you don't really know him. You know, if I had allowed that, then I might have missed this. And man, that would have been a bummer, like massive bummer. So befriending our fear is massively important. It's so important to lean in and say, you know, oh, hi, anxiety. You get that little fuzzy feeling start to come up in your stomach, right? you know that fuzzy feeling is going to come up, and it's going to come up into your throat, and you're like, oh no. But instead of saying, oh no, say, oh, hi, thank you. Thank you, because something's not balanced. Anxiety is just an awareness that something is not balanced. It's not this terrifying thing. My mom had anxiety. She still has anxiety, debilitating anxiety. I thought I had what my mom had. FYI, science fact for you guys. You can check out Bruce Lipton. Less than 2% of dis-ease in the body, less than 2% is actually hereditary. Holy Hannah, folks, that means that there's 98% that is learned and environmental that you can shift and change by choice once you realize that you don't want it. Anxiety is one of those. It is a learned behavior that is not hereditary. It is not hereditary. And you can learn how to manage it and learn how to make friends with it and learn how to use it as a tool that shows you where you're imbalanced. And then what can you bring in for balance? Breathing, meditation, just having an awareness of things. Mine, before I even had all these tools, my thing when I had anxiety was, and I started to not want to feel that way, I said, okay, Cody, what's the worst case scenario here? And the worst case scenario, when I looked at it and I looked at all the past times that I had experienced anxiety, the worst case was that I was always okay. That stuff would pass and I would be okay. And I'm like, oh, so pattern shows me that every time I panic, freak out, and feel like garbage, once I get through it and I have the hindsight, I realize I'm actually fine. So there was actually no reason for that in the first place. So why bother doing it in the first place? And this was where part of that stuff back in the day started to happen, that started to want to understand how to heal and do these things.
So I have an analogy in my head of just like when the fear and the anxiety comes up, just like giving them a high five, like, thank you for, I'm human. Thanks for, the putting a chip on my shoulder. I'm going to go and do this. Now, I want to circle back. First off, congratulations. Beautiful story. You mentioned a few things, but you kind of went through it quickly. So it sounds like this is more than a divine lover. It's going to be a business partner as well. Talk a little bit about what you guys are working on together. Yeah.
So this is magical because he and Joe, his name is Joe. He and I were doing a meditation, and there's so many amazing things that can come when you're meditating together. There's so many magical things that can kind of open up when you're in that space. And he used to go and dig stones and crystals and rocks and, all that stuff. And so he had a bunch, and we were going to be bringing them across the country with us, and, just putting up a shop or something. And then in this meditation, I popped out of meditation and I was like, babe, whoa. And he's like, what? And I'm like, we're supposed to make a grid. And he's like, what? I'm like, a crystal grid. And so he's like, oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
What's a crystal grid for anyone who doesn't know?
So a crystal grid. So we know that there's frequency. We know that there's energy. We know that everything holds an energy and a frequency, and different stones and sacred geometry, right? So if you look at a snowflake, or you look at the way bees make their hives, right? And the shapes of these things, this is sacred geometry. And all of that has an energetic pattern that holds a certain frequency. So when you create new energetic lines, so this is called ley lines of love. So it's creating a new line for a new sacred geometric shape that we're building. And so the crystals then connect with each other and connect with the earth to raise the frequency together. And then they make a grid. So you then put intention into this grid, into this thing. And intention is a lot like when a large group of people would pray for something, right? And then that energy and that collective consciousness is moving together towards a common goal or a common hope, right? So I know all of us are experiencing different things in the world right now, and there's a lot of people coming together to try to, create hope and love and all of that. So the intention of this grid, with this crystal grid, is to raise the vibration for love and harmony across the world. And we're starting it in the US, and it's going to be possibly one of the largest ones ever made. It's going to take us a little bit, of course. But we are starting the first line here in the next couple of days. I'm going to be flying out there soon. So
awesome.
Yeah. And people get to participate. So, it's something where, if you want to be part of something collective, where you're finding a tribe and a family, and you love and you want to build that frequency, and you want to be a part of that. This is a whole community. We're going to be broadcasting it across YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of our social medias. You get to watch us evolve in love and our way that we, divinely share things with one another and inspire people to find that love and that self-love. But then also to be a part of the grid, and have your name with the grid. You get a power word and an affirmation that connect you to the grid, to the stone. And you get to be part of something bigger than yourself. And that's when things start to really change, when that ripple effect goes out. So we're really excited. Put it lightly. We're excited.
I'm excited for you. We always do it at the end, but right now let's bring up, how does someone keep in touch and ultimately because someone listening to this, this is a brand new project that you can be a part of the start of that ripple. How do they reach out and spend time with you and follow you online?
Yeah, so you can hop on soulsproutspeaks.com, which is the website. Soul Sprout Speaks is also on Instagram and Facebook. And you can always email me at soulsproutspeaks.com. Of course. And you can literally go in, and there's different tabs in the website. If you go on to Instagram, there's a link tree that shows you all the different ways to get a hold of me. But there's a ley line of love page that gives you all the information on what it is, the sponsorship. So if you have a business or a shop or something that you want to have exposed, we're going to be sharing that with our 30K plus followers. And then if you want to just be a person that's a part of it, there's the Ley of Love shop, where you can pick your size stone that you'd like to be represented on the grid for you, and make magic with us and change the vibration of the world, one little stone and ripple at a time.
Yes. And wow. Okay. So we just unraveled so much, but I just realized there's a part that I feel like we didn't dig into just yet. So you were in the puppy business.
Yes.
When did you make the transition? Because now you're doing so many things, and still in my head, I actually don't know when you put that aside and decided to dive full into this, deep work you're doing today?
Yeah, well, there was a funny moment in June of 2018.